Hello, I'm Philip Brunelle, Artistic Director and founder of Vocal Essence and organist choirmaster at Plymouth Congregational Church in Minneapolis. Each day I've selected a composer that's had a role to play with these two organizations, and today it is the Mexican composer Manuel de Sumaya, born in 1678, died in 1755. Now, folks, you just have to realize what was happening in Mexico at that time compared with what was happening with the Pilgrims up here and the days of early George Washington. It was a very fascinating, very elevated thing going on in the churches down in Mexico. Sumaya, Z or S, U-M-A-Y-A, was born in Mexico and would be regarded as the most famous Mexican composer of the colonial period. His music is really the culmination of both the Baroque style in the New World, but it also had hearkenings back to the Renaissance idea. He was the chapel master at that big cathedral that you know is in the Zocalo in the center of Mexico City. And then in 1738, to the consternation of the folks in Mexico City, he moved to the cathedral in Oaxaca. Now, the reason they were bothered by this, I think, was that not only did he have a choir that he had trained, but he also had an orchestra. I mean, there was nothing like this happening, folks, in the USA at that time. He had an orchestra in the cathedral of strings, trumpets, other instruments. All of this was going on. So then he moves to Oaxaca and makes the same thing happen down there. A real blending of the old Renaissance and the new Baroque. He wrote a lot of music, and one of the things that I find fascinating is that most of it we didn't know about until recently. A professor in California, Craig Russell, has spent many summers down in Mexico in all of these churches searching for the music that is, hidden away, tucked away in some closet, music of Mexican composers of this period. And Sumaya is one of those composers. We knew he existed, we just didn't know all of this music. So Sumaya wrote a set of lamentations. As you hear a little bit of this, you could just imagine, oh, maybe that was composed in Italy, or maybe that came out of Germany. No, it came out of Mexico. This is the beginning of the Lamentations of Jeremiah. You can see what I mean. It's wonderful music that sounds very much like it came from the Renaissance, say in the 1500s, and yet, of course, this was something composed in the 1720s. He also did a piece called La Bella Incorrupta, but before that I'm going to mention a piece called Sol Fa de Pedro. It was a piece that he wrote as a test in if you wanted to get into music school. And so it was called Sol Fa de Pedro. The text, which translates, Peter's solfeggio is the lament. Let the world listen to see if it isn't so. Since the warbling of its voices knows how to unite the harshness of his feeling, by the chromatic explanation of the tender and harsh beating that Peter describes in his lament. And so you have this wonderful kind of music that, again, sounds very much like the Baroque period. But the piece that I want to play for you is a piece that was written in 1725. Just think of that time. And it's a piece called La Bella Incorrupta. It was written because of the festival of the apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And if you've been to the Cathedral of Guadalupe, there's the new cathedral, but of course there was back then the old cathedral, which because of earthquakes, etc., is a little shaky. The ensemble singers of Vocal Essence sang there 2 years ago, and it's really a wonderful experience to be in that space. The form of the music is what's called a villancico, which was a popular song with rustic themes. And it was a thing back then that in order to convert the folks who did not know Christianity, you would help them to understand religion by using this form. The text just says, the uncorrupted beauty, meaning the Virgin of Guadalupe, the destroyed ship has yielded his salvation. So what you have is this kind of dance piece, and then there's a verse, and then the dance keeps being repeated. But here's the music of this villancico, La Bella Incorrupta. Now, while that's going on, then there's a lot of things like but always that kind of lovely dance, wonderful kind of feeling going through to the end. And then, as I mentioned, there's the little verse that comes in, quite different. So you get this. And then when that finishes, you go back to your dance. Music of Manuel de Sumaya. It's wonderful, joyful, happy music. Have a wonderful day.